Good morning, everyone. It's just great to see so many people here today. We had an event up in Stormont yesterday in the Long Gallery with Professor Reid and New Strip for Mental Health, and again, that was just a fabulous day. Just feels like more and more people, there's a hunger for having conversations, and this is really what a lot of this is about, is just opening up space for us all to have critical, respectful conversations around mental health and what's working, what's not working, what the evidence is telling us, and where we really should be going, and working all of that out together. So it's lovely to be in this room with everybody this morning. As Lisa said, I work with PPR. It's a human rights organisation set up back after the Good Friday Belfast Peace Agreement in the early 2000s by Inez McCormick, who was a formidable leader, trade union leader, peace activist, organiser, and Inez set up PPR really to look at the peace agreement and to look at the human rights and equality provisions which she and others fought so hard to get into that agreement, to see were they going to make any difference to people's lives. You know, all of the sort of things written down in black and white in the agreement, had they any teeth, and would they change things for people in their everyday lives, but particularly people who need human rights protections the most. So social economic rights protections like right to housing, right to health. And that's the starting point for the mental health campaign, which was started by families who've been bereaved by suicide, families struggling to get timely and appropriate support for themselves and their loved ones. And like all good things, in the years since, it has evolved and moved on a journey, and I think you had a journey up there, Lisa, but it's very much on a journey and constantly doing and learning from what we're doing. So just give you a little sense of the campaign. It's more important just to share with the PPR as an organisation doesn't take any state funding. Because we're a human rights organisation holding the state to account, it's very important for us as a principle that our job, as we see it, is to hold the state to account. So that's why we don't take government funding. So in those early days, I said the focus was very much on suicide prevention, support for families who've been bereaved. We've always worked at the UNL in the very top corner there, on the left, Bertie and Julie on the right, and the Shankill on the Shore Road, and Marissa from New Lodge, along with two of the committee members in the Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Committee in the UN. So we've always used human rights tools to shine a light. So it's a combination of sort of community organising, using trade union tools and tactics, along with human rights-based accountability. Big campaign that the picture dropped down at the Public Health Agency, the Health and Social Care Board as it was, around access to counselling and trying to improve access to counselling, an open letter in the paper around suicide prevention. But over the years with all of the campaigns, I think the learning for us was that families were coming together trying to fix bits of the system and increasingly realising this is huge. You know, we fix one bit, maybe around waiting times or getting a bit of extra funding in for counselling, we were talking about earlier, Brian, but you know, you did that and you took your eye off the ball and you went somewhere else, and just, I think, overall those 15 years, so we've seen something different. There's something of a different magnitude or measure, but coming from a different place as well. Yes, we were successful in, you know, getting advancements in those issues that people campaigned on. It was exhausting for people. People were burnt out. But because we were beginning to realise that this is a systemic problem, these are not individual bits of a system, that if we fix, everything will be fine. I think the learning from families who've been bereaved, who'd really experienced dreadful loss and pain and injustice in the system, was that something different needs to happen here. So we got to sort of COVID, and I'll just flip on here a minute. And this was the other learning for us, was just around the systemic thing, that this is underneath this, it's really around inequality, and it's the structural thing again, it's around inequality, poverty driving that. So when you look at things like the data on antidepressant prescribing or rates of suicide, all the evidence is it's not coincidence or chance that these things are at least 3 times higher in the poorest areas. We know the rates for antidepressant prescribing here, 1 in 5 of the population, but in areas like Derry, the Shankill, the Falls, it's at least 1 in 4. And when you go with older women, the data seems to say it's up as much as 1 in 2 people, you know, that are on antidepressants. So we're medicalising distress, and the same for the rates of suicide. The gap is widening. the deaths by suicide, the inequality gap in the poorest and richest areas, the gap is widening. So something is not working in the strategies that we have. So we got to a point where, with COVID hitting, just before it, we had the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to health, Professor Daniel Puris, up in the Spectrum Centre in the Shankill Road, and really we took so much out of what he was saying, and he's done so much work in this area, and I would encourage people to look at the papers he's produced. We have them on our website. But he was saying that when you boil a lot of it down, we need to move the dial away from looking at chemical imbalance, which has now been disproven that it doesn't exist, a chemical imbalance in people's brains, and start thinking about power imbalance within society. And we'll share these, we can share these slides as well with people, so if you want to, for the quotes and that. So that gave us real pause for thought, and then during COVID we had that time, and we were thinking about the things that the United Nations and the World Health Organization were saying, that this is about power, it's about the dominance of a particular model, a biomedical model, and it's about the asymmetries of power, that there's a real the power differential between people who need the services and people on the ground and communities, and the people who have the power to decide what is being provided. And also the biased use of knowledge and evidence. I know that's something that Professor Reid has done a lot of work and commentary on. From all of that, we got to last February with 1st of February Inbox in Bridges Day, and we launched it's called New Script for Mental Health. The campaigners who've been there all along, coming through all of their knowledge and wisdom, and really hard earned, kind of saying that this is something different that's needed. So this is the new script for mental health. And I guess what it is what I said at the start, it's an opening of a conversation saying we know that the existing system isn't working, and that's known the world over. It's the frozen status quo, as the UN has called it. What can we do here? But rather than us as a campaign saying X, Y, and Z is what's needed, and will you agree with us, we're saying no, let's have conversations everywhere we can around, well, what isn't working and why isn't it working, but imagining something different and better, and that's essentially what New Script is. And we do work in different ways. We organise ourselves. We still do the human rights work, which is holding government to account around failures, really serious and with catastrophic implications for families and impacts on families, losing loved ones. So holding to account for failures in the system, failures of oversight, particularly the RQIA and their failure to regulate mental health services for 14 years, and nothing much seems to have moved on in that regard. The lack of transparency, I guess, the huge lack of mental health data, it's an absolute scandal here. We have hardly any mental health data in Northern Ireland compared with England and other places. And England, people will tell you it's not good, but by comparison with here. So we're doing a lot of work on accountability. We're building, the main thing we're doing, which is what today is part of it, building a movement, bringing people into conversation in different ways through these events, Curious Minds. We're partnered with an Irish language organisation, Grow Mona, to put on this series of talks. And then the other bit we do is called Collective Care. And Lisa, at the start, you can see that for us, we know we need to take care of ourselves and each other, and all of us having these conversations and doing this work, but in a collective way. So we organise around all of that. There's an invitation to everybody here. You put your name on the mailing list, you'll find out more about the campaign, but we really would love to, people get involved in different ways. Just run through these. There's some pictures. That's Professor Phil Scraton from Queen's here, who's helping us with the accountability work, and Paul Herbert and his nephew Gareth, who've been in the news a lot, trying to get accountability for the lack of care for Gareth, and to get the RQIA to do their job. And there's just a few pictures of some of our alternatives. We do a lot of music, drama, dance, creative writing, our poetry at Pocketry out on the beach at Helens Bay, and that's some pictures of our collective care. The campaign won an Ashling Award just before Christmas down in Europa, so that was a real tribute and recognition of the work that's happening. And Siobhan and Kenny doing the nails, the collective care, and some dance happening over here. So that's just to give you a bit of a very quick run through an overview of the campaign. Our website, we do keep it updated, and social media, so there's lots more information if you're interested to go and have a look. That's okay.
Thank you. handy.
Yeah, so I'll invite Deirdre up then. As Lisa said, Deirdre is one of the activists, and we're really delighted that, and this beautiful picture here, and it's down at the back as well. The activists, quite a few people here were involved in a thing called Desperate Monologues, worked with Damien Gorman, who's a playwright, in January, and put 1st of February. We do everything at super speed, despite saying we're trauma-informed, but over a month or so we put together a thing called Desperate Monologues and performed it in Youth Action's Rainbow Factory on the 1st of February, and Deirdre did the poster designed by the group, and Deirdre did the beautiful poster with the drawings, and Deirdre has written a poem which she's now going to share with you. So.
So I'm just going to introduce myself first. My name is Deirdre and I am an activist with PPR and take part in the new script for mental health. I am a survivor of domestic violence and I got involved with PPR to advocate for change, to share my real lived experiences in a bid to raise awareness and to help others. Recently I have found out that women are not even protected in courts. I'm one of them. Family court in particular, and they're used as basically a platform to further abuse, basically for perpetrators to further abuse their victims. I've discovered that there are no mental health support systems in place at all in the courts to aid victims of domestic violence. I'm in court presently at the minute, facing my abuser each and every time I go there. Every type of abuse a man could possibly do to a woman, I'm reliving that every single time I'm in court, and I'm just expected to deal. And recently, through no fault of my own, I have been forced to represent myself in court, no solicitor, no barrister, and I really couldn't do it if I did not have the help and support through the programmes that I've been involved in with the new script for mental health. And basically, my introduction to the new script would be that it just provides a new way. It highlights that the investment in the creative arts can actually help the healing process. I have used dance, as you can see here, calligraphy, art, poetry as a medium to share my story, and really it's using these mediums, which is a far cry from the doctors wanting to pill push and push medicines onto me. So that's basically a background to me. I wrote this poem because I wanted to try to make my negative experiences into something positive, and the only way I can think of doing that is to express this in poetry, but also that nothing can ever be in vain, and that's what the title is, Nothing is Ever in Vain. My world was falling apart, and I would dart around the place to find some healing grace. I'd go here and there, looking for help and get nowhere. I was desperate and in despair. I'd see black holes in life, and the deeper they got, the more I was in strife. There's no one to talk to, there's nowhere to go. The list and services are endless. It's all a bit of a mess. I'm in agony, I'm in pain, but my torture, my experiences, my trauma cannot be in vain. I try to get help, I try to reach out. It's closed doors what my life is all about. I want to talk about my problems, to express my fears, so that I can be there to catch other people's tears. And I hope that things will turn around so people do not feel eternally bound to their past traumas and hurt and pain. I'm telling you now, nothing is ever in vain. There is a window, there is a way. I'm worthy and I'm not made of clay. You cannot mold me into something that you want me to be, because I am unique and different, and that's